here pretty soon. There
There
we
it is.
go. All right, Joe Rare is my guest today from Level 9 Virtual. Joe, welcome to the show. And
Thank you.
you are actually in the placement business, very similar to what RepStack's doing. Do you want to just kind of let us know about what you do and what Level 9 Virtual is all about?
Yeah. So, I mean, kind of my world has all been outsourcing and building businesses that don't require the owner to be involved. And so, kind of my claim to fame has been the success that we've been able to build multiple companies. We have 6 now that are essentially 95% operated by virtual staff. None of them are pretty much in the US. So we definitely believe in there are no, borders and boundaries when it comes to finding good talent. I hired my first virtual assistant in 2008, November of 2008. And I've had a team working with me every single day since, in various capacities. Level 9 Virtual came because one of my staff members said, "Hey, we should build a VA company because we keep telling people how to hire VAs, but we never actually just do it for them and help them." So we did that, and we only built it so that we could, my agency at the time, so that we could support our agency clients and just deliver, help them get staff. And then realized that, we could actually build the business. And so we grew the business, and it's been a wild ride. And as I'm sure you're aware, and it's been great. But Level 9 Virtual, we offer VA services to small businesses, and both dedicated project-based, call center type support, stuff like that.
That's awesome, man. And as far as your price points are concerned, like how do you compare yourself, or what would be the ranges be?
So if you're looking dedicated VAs 40 hours a week, we're a flat rate of $1,550 a month. And so
Okay.
if you're part-time, it's $950 a month. We do flat rate, which we roll up into all of it and make it super easy for people. Is we roll up all of our, like the holiday pay, the PTO, all of that stuff. We actually just roll it up into one cost, and a client knows, hey, this is how many days they're going to get off. This is how many PTO days they have. We've just done it that way. In every business that I have, productizing it has been better rather than trying, and being transparent with pricing. Like every price that we have is on the website. We don't even mess around and say hey, we need to get on and figure out what you're doing. Like we just try to figure out the best option to provide that's going to work for our clients. Some of our services, we raised prices this past year. Dedicated VAs, we're raising prices soon, just because the demand is high, and and then we're continuing to pay VAs even more. So as the business grows, we've got to make sure we're still able to support staff and support families and all those things. So
That's awesome, man. Sounds very interesting. So I guess you had a marketing agency, and that's kind of where all of this kind of came out of, Level 9
So
Virtual.
yeah, I mean, I have a marketing agency, but the VA stuff all started way back in 2008. That's where I kind of got into it. The reason we
That's a
built the
long
VA
time
company,
ago, man. That's
yeah,
way back.
yeah, it was
Anyone
before VAs.
even
Yeah,
knew?
most people didn't even realize you could hire somebody overseas back then. And
That's awesome.
yeah, so it was it was I didn't have any money to hire people in the US, and I didn't have the skill to do everything I needed to do in order to build a business. So I had to find staff elsewhere. And so, I went to every, country and culture that I could possibly, test, and over the years, and where we ended up landing for our company is primarily the Philippines. We do have some staff
Okay.
in, in India and Pakistan and South America, but the majority happened to that's where we landed, was in the Philippines, and it's worked well for us, for what we need. And then if there's specific skill sets that isn't, I guess conducive to their culture, we, hire elsewhere. But that's been
So,
kind of our path. Yeah.
so how big is the VA team now, like across all different countries?
So we have over 900 VAs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So we were over 1,000, kind of dipped back down, but yeah. So we've got about, I don't know, somewhere over 900.
That's awesome, man. That's huge scale. So, and basically, you guys are taking care of all sorts of needs. So, if I need like a cold caller, or if I need a appointment setter, I guess you guys do that, right? And
Yeah.
do you guys specialize in a particular type of business, or you guys open to working with all small businesses?
We work with a lot of small businesses. What we try to do is stay in our lane, which is primarily marketing services for small businesses. So while the niche might be gigantic and it could be plumbers and it could be marketing agencies or attorneys,
Yeah.
the niche that we actually provide, the actual service set, is in the marketing realm. So it could be graphic design, it could be video editing, it could be appointment setting, it could be prospecting, kind of anything, CRM stuff, marketing automation, all those types of things. It can be anywhere in that. But we stay within our service lane.
That's awesome, man. And then the quality of the associate, because a lot of people that we work with in our clients on our client side, they have this question that they're used to hiring people locally inside the U.S. market, for example, and
Yeah.
now they might be going in and they might be hiring a content writer or someone that they're going to have to work with who is on a different continent, and some of the questions that pop up are, how do I communicate? How is the level of communication going to be with my remote VA? So how does that work on your side? What do you guys do there?
So I think it's a mental shift for most people, and so we want to prep people with the mental side of it first, which is going to be,
Hmm.
if you can't wrap your head around the fact that there's as good or better talent in another country or a different continent, if you can't wrap your head around that, outsourcing is not for you.
Hmm.
But I love the idea that, like, one of the greatest stories I tell everybody, if I get on a call with somebody and I'm chatting with a potential client, the story that I love to tell is, like, I'm a college dropout. I never finished school. I build businesses for a living. However, if you want to worry about education and skill set, my lead developer has a master's degree and he's a professor at a university. Like, so you tell me what it would cost for you to go get that same talent in whatever country you're in, whether it be the US, Canada, Australia, the UK, it doesn't matter. Wherever you are, you tell me what it would take for you to get that level of talent and that level of
Hmm.
experience and education. You can't. Number one, you can't get it.
Hmm.
Number two, it'll cost you an arm and a leg. But we can go get it in another country. And it's just the
Hmm.
dynamic of, the way the different cultures operate. And so I love to tell that, when it comes to communication, obviously you're not going to hire somebody who can't communicate,
Hmm.
right? Like, so we're just going to make sure that that is something that is checked off the box. And we know that this person can communicate effectively, either written or verbal or both. Right. And some people
Hmm.
don't need a verbal, somebody who's really good at speaking English. What they might need is just somebody
Yeah.
who can write very well in English. And we have plenty of people on my internal team that absolutely, are not effective communicators verbally, but they're very, very good
Hmm.
written. And you would never know
Yeah.
that they had an accent or that they, that English is their second language. You would never know if you just had a written dialogue with them. And so
Hmm.
that's what I try to portray and share with clients, is that, that it's a mental shift. As soon as you make that mental shift and you understand it, and then once you test it and you have good results, then it's easy, right? And then you want to outsource everything. And then all of a sudden,
Yeah.
yeah, your entire life becomes outsourced, if possible.
The flip side of that equation, Joe, is that we get asked again, is that I'm paying all this money to level 9, and how much is that going over to my associate? Because now that some of our clients, they start working with their associates and VAs, they become part of their teams and they want to
Yeah.
work with them for the long term, for as long as possible, right? So they obviously want to take care of them as well. But how do you, like, what are some of the things that a company like you are doing, for example, to take care of, like, you guys have 900 people overseas right now, so that's huge. Like, how do you make sure that everyone's happy and well paid?
So, I mean, the well-paid piece of it is relative to the person. And so, what I can tell everybody is that we don't pay crazy low wages like everybody sees advertised. Like, hey, come get an appointment setter and they're $3 an hour. Like, we don't even pay anybody $3 an hour. So, like, you can't, I can't even offer that, and we don't.
Yeah.
And where I want our price point to be is kind of the upper side of the middle, to where we're more expensive than everybody who's advertising come get cheap labor like that. Like my focus isn't cheap labor. That isn't my focus. Now, cost leverage, yes, because if you were to compare US wages versus what you could get, for example, our team to do, there's massive cost leverage. That makes sense. When it comes to how much we're paying individuals, it depends on their skill set. It depends on their experience. It depends what role that they're going to play. All of those things come into play, just like when you hire locally, right? You're taking all of those things into consideration. What we have to do as a company is we have to hire people so that it fits the price point we charge our clients, gives us a margin as a company, allows us to have internal staff to manage, oversee. I mean, we have HR departments and and finance divisions and fulfillment teams and management teams and, team leads. And like, there's layers and layers and layers. And we have to be able to, from our price point, we have to be able to pay everybody in between to make sure that the performance of that VA actually performs. And we have to pay the VA. And so we do have kind of a minimum threshold where we hire people at. And if they don't have very much experience, then they don't get paid as high as somebody who has more experience. However, what's great is then we can build them up. We can work them. And we have another project-based service in our company called our pods, projects on demand. And we've been running this for a long time. It's very, very successful in getting newer VAs experience. And so we can bring a new VA and we can have them work side by side with somebody internally within our team. And they do projects. And after they do 200 of the same projects, they get pretty freaking good at those projects. Then we can place them with a client, and now they have more experience. But they may have come in, kind of early, and they didn't have a lot of experience until we gave it to them. And so it allows us to, build people and so forth.
That's great.
Again,
so you guys do a lot of invest in a lot of trainings and building that up as well. So do you guys hire preemptively and have a bench of associates available to be placed?
Yeah. So project-based work has helped us do that, because we can hire a whole bunch of people and then give them project-based tasks and say, hey, listen, why don't you come in, and you happen to be, for example, a graphic designer, and, you need work. Well, we have, 100 graphic design tasks that come in every single week. Well, we need support on that. So why don't you come in and actually work? You can work
and
with
that's where your internal businesses or level 9 related businesses that you guys have.
Well, right? It's project-based stuff. It could be my own companies, right? So it could be other companies that we have. So I've, 6 companies that we operate. So they could be doing projects for my internal companies. And that's a great way for us to test people and train people. And we can give them projects for, for example, like this business visitor match. I can give them projects to do in that company, and it doesn't affect the output for a client. And so I think it's an advantage that we have.
And you get to test out the work ethic
100%.
that, the American society is so well known for, right? And I think that's the biggest thing that people have a hard time adjusting to, just because in North America, people run on a very different pace in terms of work and their careers are concerned. So just catching up is a bit of and then if you can have that training to them before they land on their first account, then
absolutely
it's just better chances of success, right?
100%. And we can find those areas where we can tweak their skill set, where we know that, if they're coming in and it's like they're kind of, they got it, they know the fundamental of how to do something, but maybe they're missing the finesse. Maybe they're missing that little subtle difference. And we can instill that in them by continuously giving them projects and continuously giving them feedback. And when they do a project for one of my companies and it's not quite right, we don't have to look at it as a loss from client hours or client cost or setting a bad situation with a client. it's like, that's internal. That's my cost. So now I
Mm,
can just go, okay, look, like, here's how we need to fix it. Or, the team does it, but here's how we need to fix it. It needs to look like this. It needs to feel like this. It needs to come across this way, or, whatever that is. And so I think it gives us an opportunity to truly build people very, very effectively. And then it also lets me do what I like to do, which is test new stuff. I want to try to build a new business. Every time we come up with an idea, the first thing that we do is we have our team just kind of build a mock, run 100 miles an hour at it, and then see what comes out of it. And then, and a lot
and
of times
with access to manpower that you guys have, you can try out, because that's usually the biggest hindrance, right? When you're
100%.
acting on new idea, you need a lot of man hours. You either do it yourself, or you're going to have to hire someone to do it, right? So and
How do
pay
you hire
someone to
somebody
do
when
it.
you have no income? How do you hire somebody to do something when
Exactly.
it's just a concept? It's an idea.
Especially here in North America, right? Because
Yeah.
it's going to be really, really expensive to prove that stuff out, or take
Yep.
time out of. Sometimes we're working 2 jobs while we're getting out there and all of that stuff. So this is
Yeah.
great. We do something very similar on our side on that stuff as well. But what about the infrastructure, Joe? So now, like, for someone who's thinking that, okay, that's a great idea, maybe I'll hire from Joe, or maybe I'll set up my own teams in Philippines. Sounds easy enough. Like, can you maybe walk us through like how your teams are set up, and what's the infrastructure that you need to set up for, so that one of your associates can go and perform really, really great for a client here in Colorado, maybe?
So for me, the processes are the challenge. Most people don't have good processes. And so we figured
Hmm.
out, because I failed the other way, right? I already messed up and screwed up a business, failed businesses. I've had more failures than most people have even started making attempts. And so because I firmly believe in the concept of failing fast, and then learning something from the failure, and then not repeating mistakes, like, it's a big deal. And so we've been able to create processes that work. And so if somebody wants to go build their own team, I think go for it. Like, you can absolutely do it. You don't have to pay my company to do it. I would love for you to, just like you would love somebody to come to RepStack. But
Yeah.
you don't have to come to me, but I bet you our processes and how we make it easy for you is going to be better than if you don't have any processes at all and you just continue to burn and spin your wheels. So for having the processes in place to actually build a team is important. And that is something that I think, well, no, it's not even, I think it's the reason we've been able to build multi companies over 7 figures, one company over 8. The reason we've been able to do that is because of the processes we have in place. I can pick up one person who runs a team in one company. I can pick them up, move them, drop them into the same role in another company, and their responsibilities are identical. So the back end processes that we have in each company are identical. They're all the same. So if somebody, an investor, were to come in and say, hey, I want to buy one of the companies, we could easily map exactly how the company operates to a T, because we've done it. We have 6 of them and they all operate identically. Different verbiage, maybe a different niche, different service offering, but the process is identical. And
So that's
so
what you're investing in as a service, that the chances of failure are, because of the iterations
we've
that you
reduced
guys
them.
have had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The more that
Yeah.
we can replicate our processes, and then we work out the kinks every time we do it, right? It's like, oh, this popped up. Oh, well, we can get rid of
So
that, right?
you've done it over 900 times, building out this particular business, and then if you're doing this for the first time, if somebody's thinking of hiring for the first time, the probability of going wrong and then hiring the wrong person is even more
Yeah.
detrimental than bringing in the right people.
I used to have
Because
a really good, it was US based, but it was the cost of acquiring a new team member and what it actually cost a US company to hire somebody. And it was looking at mainly small businesses, but it went from the recruiting aspect of it, of like, okay, we got to post an ad. Okay, then we got to get applicants. And it went through the timelines, and it went through the cost, the actual monetary cost of actually getting somebody onto their team. And then it had the success ratio of how long that person stayed. The amount of businesses that hire somebody and then the person turns over And all of the cost to get that person in a seat in that office. And if the person doesn't stay, like, let's say, I forget what the timeline was, but if the person doesn't stay for like a year, they actually never recoup the money.
Yeah.
And so if the person leaves after 6 months, they have a massive loss of cash, of capital. They lose the money. Then they have to go get that person again and start over. So then when the second person doesn't stay for a full year, you compound it. You didn't lose once. You actually lose a loss at a higher factor. And so that was one of the reasons that like you can go hire a VA everywhere. But here's what you're going to find out. You're going to find out that if you don't actually know what you're doing, you're going to then turn it over. Your time, the financial resources to actually do it. And financial resources are your time. You know, taking your attention away from revenue generating activities, you are going to lose money when that person turns over.
Yeah. And that think of it, right? Like think of it when anytime you do something for the first time. I just recently, picked up a longboard last month. And, I used to ride a skateboard back when I was a teenager, but just got myself a longboard. I got a couple of, you probably can't see him, but I got a couple of bruised fingers right now. And, it's been rough a few past weeks, but I'm just going on it all the time. I'm getting banged up and bruised.
Yeah.
And that's what's going to happen. And this is a lot easier, right? Like I'm just playing around with myself over here, but you're working with your own business and something that's really important. Maybe a lot of other people rely on. And when we do this for the hiring, for example, someone outside of the initial co-founders who are really behind the vision, now you start to build out your team. It's going to be a process, and you're going to get there. Like initially, you're going to do it yourself, and you're going to find that you hired maybe the wrong person. You're going to have to do it again. And it seems nice, fine, and dandy that, okay, I've gotten to $350,000 a year. Now I want to go to $1 million, and I need to hire these 2 people. Perfect. Who are those 2 people going to be? Have you done hiring before? Have you printed out a job description before? Have you done recruitment before? Do you know how to read a resume and find the right person? And then when you go into the interview, you're going to ask questions. Do you know how to ask the right questions? And all of that stuff combined together, there's going to be a ball or 2 that's going to get dropped. Not to mention what you just said, that you're taking your eye off from the ball and you're just doing this particular activity where sales and retention and all of those things that you're responsible for or still need your attention. So it's just initially, at least I would say, eventually, obviously, like it's great to have we have a lot of clients who have their own teams. They have hybrid teams where our people are connected with their teams and things like that. And some people have their own teams. That's perfectly okay. But in order to get there, I think working with a company like Level 9 is a great idea, because you just reduce the chances of going wrong. Because if you were to hire somebody and you got it wrong, I was talking to a friend who is a digital marketing agency coach, Rahul Alim out of California, and he mentioned that according to the Department of Labor and Statistics, it's $240,000 to hire a wrong person.
So that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. And I mean, here's the interesting thing. We're talking about the hiring part. So that's the hiring part. Now, what about retention? What about building culture? Now you have somebody who's all the way on the other side of the world from you. You still have to create a level of culture with them. And that's part of the value in, for example, like I say with Level 9 Virtual, is that our culture internal with our company, all of the VAs, whether they work directly for us or they're working with clients, they're still a part of our culture. So they still have a go-to person. They've got somebody in HR that's like checking on them, that's having conversations with them.
How do you build culture, Joy, in such a massive and
oh my God, you don't. I don't do it. The way is I don't do it. Somebody else has to do it, because what I know for a fact is that's not my skill set. So it took me ruining culture because I thought I could do it. I thought I was fun. I thought I was a good a good leader. And the reality
Yeah.
is that I'm the visionary. I'm not the integrator. That's dead obvious to people. I'm fun to, be around and have a good time if we're doing interactions. But the reality is that I won't remember anybody's birthday ever. Like if my wife didn't remember everybody's birthday, I would probably forget my parents' birthday. Like it's pretty bad. I'm not good at that kind of stuff, at that kind of team building culture. Like I don't even think about it because the only thing I'm doing is vision, drive the ship. Here's where we need to go. Here's my plan. All right, everybody, let's jump on board and go. But who's going to keep them on board and keep the morale? And what I realized, it's not me. And so what I've gotten really good at is understanding, Joe, you're not very good at this. So hire people who are, let them manage those people and build the culture, and you get the hell out of the way. Because if I get in and think like I have a place to like, I am terrible at it. So how do you do it? You find people who are actually really good at that they actually, when they wake up in the morning, the thing that they enjoy is reaching out and having conversations and getting to know people. Yeah. And, it's like when people in our HR team know the family details of VAs, and I mean hundreds of them, it's remarkable to me. It's remarkable. I can't remember anybody's name. So, and I'm talking like I'm like, I could introduce a friend and screw that up. So I just know who I am. And I think that building a team of people who enjoy the parts of like culture building, relationship building, team management, those kinds of things, I have to hand that off. And I'm okay. I'm okay finally, years later, realizing that I'm just not good at it. And when I get out of the way, everything's better. So that's kind of it.
Yeah. I think that's a great answer. And keeping an eye on it, having the right person for the right job. I think just easy. And, I think your time is best spent in dreaming up big ideas. Sure. And that's what we want to allow the companies and the business partners that we work with, right? Like that's what we're bringing to the table. Joe, it's been great, man, talking to you. Level9virtual.com is Joe's website if anyone wants to reach out and figure out what these guys are doing. And it's been a great conversation, man. Thanks for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was great to get to know you a little bit.
Same here, man. Do you want to stick around for a sec here, Joe?
Sure.
And
Absolutely.